Welcome, everybody, to Councilmember Martinez, your first candidate. Most of these questions have been prepared from written answers you gave to the ANC questionnaire. Your own words have been used where possible. Some of the questions are compound, but they're related. Please listen carefully to each section of the question and do not try to start answering until I have completely finished. We ask that you answer each question directly and succinctly. If your response strays from the question, I have been instructed to interrupt you and redirect you to the question. You will have 1 minute to answer each question. The timekeeper, Lupe, right here, will signal you only 3 times: when you have 30 seconds left, when you have 15 seconds left, and when you're out of time. Lupe, that's the green card first, the yellow card, okay. You must quit speaking when you're out of time. If you don't, we're going to begin the forum tonight by questioning for place 2, Mike Martinez. Are you on? Are you on?
Yeah. I am.
Okay.
2-minute intro, right?
You ready?
2-minute intro, right?
Right, you have 2 minutes.
Okay. Thank you all for having me here. I guess this is payback time for cutting the microphones off after a certain amount of time. But it's a pleasure to be here. It's been 3 years. I came here asking for your support and endorsement. I've been honored to serve as your council member, and I've thoroughly enjoyed the experience and the learning that comes with it. I certainly did not have even a fraction of the experience and breadth of knowledge that I believe that I possess today that I've learned over the last 3 years. But it's been a wonderful experience nonetheless. And so tonight I'm back and I'm asking for your support. I'm humbly asking for your support. I think that in my first term I've demonstrated the ability to listen to all sides, to make difficult decisions. We have not always agreed on every issue, but I hope that through what you've witnessed over the last 3 years, that I have proven my work to be able to ask you for your continued support. I look forward to a second term should you choose to support me, and I look forward to building on the things that we started in the first term. I believe there's much more we can do, and quite frankly, I enjoy the questions that you guys ask because they come from such an informed and experienced position as community members, and I really try to answer them as honestly but as contextually as I could with as much information so that you could learn more about me. But I look forward to the forum tonight. I think you're going to have a hard time with some of the candidates, though, getting them to shut up on time. Thank you.
I'm so glad to hear that you enjoy the questions.
So did my campaign manager, Laura Williams.
Here we go. Both the APD Community Liaison and the APD District Representative programs are extremely valuable to neighborhoods. They provide mechanisms for citizens to collaborate with the city and the APD to prevent and reduce crime and to identify and address systemic causes of crime in the community. The APD Community Liaison Unit has been targeted for dismantling, and the District Representatives program may be threatened with reductions as well. In this time of economic hardship, when crime rates are likely to increase, does it make sense to you to try to end or diminish these programs? Will you commit to protect these programs from budget cuts?
Great question. Obviously, my background was in public safety, and I have taken an approach to not do across-the-board budget cuts, but to be more precise so that we can maintain the core services that are critically important to us. I have not seen a proposal as to what would replace or take place of the current liaison and commander forms. So I can tell you that I would not support eliminating those programs without something that would replace them, that would either improve that process and also have the support of the neighborhoods. So my commitment is either this is going to stay in place or something is going to be better that you all can support as well.
Austin has been allocated $1.7 million in federal stimulus funds through the Justice Assistant Grant Program to prevent and control crime and improve the criminal justice system. The funds may be used for a broad range of activities, including to put more officers on the street, to purchase additional tools and equipment necessary to fight crime, and to fund various programs including drug treatment and enforcement. How do you think these funds could best be used to address Austin's rising crime rates?
You know, I really think that while we do have issues related to drug crime and driving while intoxicated, I believe that there's one area of crime, though, that really needs our focus and that really has a direct impact on quality of life, and that's property crimes and theft. When folks are being terrorized in your neighborhood and waking up every day to another shattered window in a car and a stereo stolen, it creates that broken window theory. It creates and feeds on those who are looking to victimize certain neighborhood groups. I think if we focused on those areas, we would have a ripple effect on other crime areas. So I would want to focus on property crimes and theft.
And how do you think that those federal stimulus funds could be used to address that?
By applying them to a property crime unit that is focused in the neighborhood areas such as the North Campus, West Campus, areas where we know property crimes are occurring on an abnormally high rate.
Okay. You said that in certain instances growth has not paid for itself. Please provide a specific example. How would you ensure that future growth will pay for itself and not result in taxpayer subsidies?
Sure. There's tons of examples, but the biggest one that's happening right now is Miller development. It's not paying for itself, folks. Now, as far as design and concept and Miller, I love it. I think it's a well-planned, well-thought-out community. But the fact of the matter is it's not paying for itself, and it's not going to, because we are going to be foregoing property and sales taxes for many years to come moving forward. But more specifically, when we talk about growth on East 6th Street, the condos that exist, we created that core transit corridor and the vertical mixed-use zoning to allow those to occur. What we didn't take into account is the infrastructure upgrades that are required to handle the capacity that is now increased in those corridors. I think that should be a factor in making decisions in the future. I think it has a financial impact on our budget because we are forced now to go into those areas and do upgrades where in our planning schedule it was not previously planned. And so we have to reprioritize our funding.
The negotiated deal with CWS and Save Town Lake SRCC was only possible because you and a few other council members took a strong position saying you would not support the variances to the waterfront overlay that were being proposed. Your leadership empowered Save Town Lake and the neighborhood to sit at the table with the property owner in a strong enough position that the owner was forced to compromise. The 1986 waterfront overlay height limits were maintained and a very positive outcome was reached for all parties involved. Will you support continuing to set a high bar with respect to the waterfront overlay and codifying the maximum height limits so that they apply to PUD districts and planned development area combining districts? The Lakeshore subdistrict of the waterfront overlay had a maximum height of 60 feet. Will you oppose granting heights above 60 feet for the portion of the South Shore District PUD that is in the Lakeshore subdistrict of the waterfront overlay?
Yes. The short answer is yes, and I was proud to be the first council member to publicly oppose the CWS project and striking the waterfront overlay task force to come back and bring the recommendations that have come forward. But it should be mentioned that the first phase of recommendations is what's before council. The second phase is actually the advisory group and staff, which will have a conversation about density bonuses and community benefits and if they're appropriate. So my support is unequivocally that I support the height limitations, but you must also all know that the density bonus provisions have not been vetted and fully, they've been discussed, but they haven't been put in a proposal form, and that is to come with the new advisory group and staff.
You indicate that the problems with multiple postponements and reconsiderations at the Board of Adjustments were taken into consideration during the recent updates and revisions. However, the recent updates actually were the cause of the problems. For example, Robert's Rules of Order allows for suspending the rules and procedures. Do you think the Board of Adjustments should be allowed to suspend their rules to allow indefinite postponements and multiple reconsiderations?
The answer is yes. If we maintain Robert's Rules of Order as the rules that apply to the Board of Adjustments, because that's Robert's Rules of Order. If we believe that there needs to be a different set of rules that govern our Board of Adjustments, then I'm completely open to entertaining those rules. But as long as we have a codified ordinance that says Robert's Rules of Order new version is what's to be used, then you have to allow suspension of the rules. That's part of it.
When you agreed to use the Robert's Rules of Order, were you aware that suspensions were allowed?
I was. I've been using Robert's Rules of Order for years as president of the Firefighters Association.
You gave the most complete answer to our question about water treatment plant number 4. Explain your rationale for why we need to proceed now with phase 1 of water treatment plant number 4.
Sure. There are multiple factors, and I'll try to be very brief. One is we have to plan for future demand, but at the same time we have to plan for current existing infrastructure failures that occur from time to time. At 6th and Lamar, just a few months ago, we had a mainline break that it took us 8-10 hours, I think, to cap the break. We literally spent millions of gallons of potable water in one main break. I think it helps us to be able to repair and upgrade aging infrastructure by taking certain things offline at Ulrich and at Davis if we have this additional capacity from phase 1. I also believe that it's much cheaper to treat, it's much cheaper to distribute because of the gravitational pull, and in the end will prove to be very cost-effective form of a new water treatment source.
By the way, do you think that's going to help serve East Austin? Quick question.
Yes, because we are on a grid system. No matter where you put the water supply into the system, and because it's at the highest peak, it will be able to serve other areas.
Do you believe PUD districts should be limited to large or complex development projects? In what special circumstances would you support PUDs of less than 10 acres? Do you think it's appropriate for a project to be brought forward as a PUD merely as a mechanism to get around compatibility standards and height limits?
Well, guys, you know that I led the revision of the PUD ordinance, and while it may not have come out exactly like we all wanted it, I think there are some significant improvements to the ordinance. The answer to all of those questions is that it's going to have to demonstrate superiority. If it doesn't meet the 10-acre requirement, if it doesn't meet other requirements in the ordinance, it's going to have to considerably show its level of superiority. I realize that PUDs are used for various different reasons, but for me, the bottom line is it has to be a superior development than what would have been developed under the existing zoning category.
You indicate that you believe the provisions for duplexes are currently too narrow. Could you elaborate on what provisions you believe are too restrictive? Do you believe duplexes should be allowed that are essentially just 2 separate homes on one lot, given that there is a neighborhood planning tool that allows for homes to be built on small lots of 3,500 square feet or more?
What was the last part of that again?
Do you believe duplexes should be allowed that are essentially just 2 separate homes on one lot, given that there is a neighborhood planning tool that allows for homes to be built on small lots of 3,500 square feet or more?
No, I actually don't support that particular provision in the code, and I'll tell you why. I lived in the Holly neighborhood before I bought my current house off of East MLK, and I saw what it did to that and what it's done to that neighborhood. It's literally created 2 single-family dwellings on a very small lot. That wasn't the intention. I don't believe that wasn't my intention for initially supporting this, and for the folks who live in that neighborhood to support it. So no, I don't believe that is appropriate. It's not appropriate in the code to allow for that. As it relates to duplexes, the reason I stated that I believe that it's too restrictive for duplexes is because I believe that duplexes can provide an affordability component that is very difficult to achieve in the urban core. And by allowing duplexes, it allows for rental units that folks can afford to live in and possibly raise a family.
Last question. In several areas of the city, the neighborhood planning process has resulted in a feeling of citizen distrust of the process between citizen input and those who actually write the plan document. How would you improve relations between residents and city planners as work continues on neighborhood plans and as we move forward toward the development of a comprehensive plan? Please give specific examples.
Well, as it relates to the comprehensive plan, the reason that I actually asked that it not be put forward was because it was a top-down process. These were consultants that were brought in from another community, another city, and were going to tell us how to develop a comprehensive plan, as opposed to what my vision would have been is for a community stakeholders group and for each individual area of our community to build a comprehensive plan from the ground up and let the consultants know what values and what they'd like to see in that plan. I understand the frustration as it relates to neighborhood plans. I think that what I can say is hopefully my past record and position will demonstrate that I do try to take every concern into consideration. I do try to make the best decision possible as it relates to all the concerns that are laid out. But we simply can't stop private property owners from coming in and making zoning requests. It's going to happen. Until state statute changes, a private property owner is going to come forward every Thursday and ask us to rezone their property.
Thank you. Your time's up.
Thank you.
We'll have a 5-minute break, and then we'll bring forward our place 5, Bill Spellman. Thank you, Councilmember Martinez.
Thanks, Danette. Thank you all.